Our punch painter tool allows us to selectively add color saturation to image areas. We're going to go ahead and double click on the punch painter, and you notice it gives me a fairly large brush. In this case, what I want to do is I'm actually going to add color saturation to the background areas here. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger. Now if you notice here that we've got our saturation, we're actually running at 50% here. And so what happens is I'm going to click on here and I'm going to start painting, and you're going to see my screen updating. Now what's important is I'm going over these areas here. Even though I've kind of gone over it more than once, I've never lifted my pen or clicked my mouse again. So what happens is it actually applied that 50%. As soon as I click my mouse again or lift my pen, it will add more saturation to that area. So I want to kind of wipe over the one areas, then lift my pen and go back more again as I need it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a wipe across the top here. And so we're going to wipe across the top here, and you can see it's going to add another level of saturation. Well, clearly that's too much saturation for that image. Since I just did it in one brush stroke, I could actually do a Command Z. So let's say that we looked at our image and we got an area maybe a little bit too much into one particular area. At any point we can always go down and we can use our Oops brush. With our Oops brush I can go back in and I could selectively start to make adjustments in some of these areas to be able to lift off some of the saturation if I thought it was a little bit too bright in a particular area. So let's take a look here, and you can see what all we've done to the image. You can see how we've actually able to intensify those greens and give the image a little bit more of a dramatic look. Let's go ahead and take another look at our punch painter and how we can actually use it in a studio environment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on punch painter, and we're going to start painting. Taking my brush, and you can see how I'm adding in the saturation. Now as I'm doing this in one stroke. Even though I move my brush back and forth, I'm not actually lifting the pen, because every time that I lift the pen or click the mouse, it will actually add another level. I can go back and forth here all day and it won't make any changes until I actually lift up that pen. As soon as I lift up the pen, which I did now, it'll actually go in, and now you can see it's actually making another change or another level of the saturation boost there. So every time we pick up that pen, it's going to add more. So we have to watch it to be careful that we're not oversaturating the image too much. Now sometimes if we're working, we may slip. Say we end up and I actually got some saturation on her arm there. Well, I don't want that there, but I want to be able to take it off there. I can do a Control or Command Z, or I could take and go down and use my Oops brush. If we go down and use our Oops brush here, I'm just going to double click it here, and then I can start brushing over this skin area. Now if I had used the portraiture plugin on this one, I would have actually wanted to have held my Shift key when I use the Oops brush there, because what it will do is that it would take it off what I did here but not take off the portraiture. So right now what we're doing is going back to the state of where we created that original retouching layer, and so I'm going here and you can see I'm just lifting that right off of her skin right there, so we've taken off any of that extra saturation that we put on the image. If I turn my layer on and off, you can see the difference in how we're able to take and add that vibrance. So sometimes if we're working on an outdoor image, we may want to go in and just punch up a tree or a selective item, and that's where the punch painter is very, very cool for just adding zing to a particular area of an image.